Okay, so we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jerusalem Stadium. Getting ready for the Humble Line versus Waterhouse game here in Waterhouse. It's expected to be a pretty tight matchup right now. Humble Line is a bit lower in the standings, lower than they should be, to be honest. They've had a couple unlucky results, but Waterhouse has been ironically on fire lately. They're really trying to make a run towards Portmore, and they're hoping to continue that run here today in this Monday night matchup. So this Monday night matchup will be live on our website and our apps, Island Sports Network. The links will be in the description. If you are here part of the YouTube feed, feel free to ask me any questions. I'll sort of just be talking along about the game, and I can answer any questions that are if you're curious about the Premier League. So I have to do a couple quick errands just to spread the word a bit about the live stream. So I'm just going to quickly share this on our pages. A few moments, guys. I am just sharing the link around. If you have any questions, please put it in chat. We are here at Jerusalem Stadium, as you can see. It's always a good place to have a Monday night. The crowds are always very energetic, and it's just a fun atmosphere to be in a game. So, in case you are wondering, I will repeat myself a few times in the beginning. I just as people come in. Right now I'm just in the middle of trying to... internet is not the greatest here. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do is I want you to take a look at the standings. I'm going to pull up the standings here, and I'm going to talk a bit about how the Premier League is looking, take a look at some of the scores that was shown yesterday. So when we look at the scores from yesterday, let's look at the results here. So Portmore beat Cavalier. That's actually a big game because Cavalier was the top of the table at one point. I think they were on top of the table for about 1 week, and then they lost it again. So that was a big game for Portmore against Cavalier. Portmore sort of asserting their dominance in the league, making sure people know they are number one. They put up a pretty good gap on them. I think they're about 5 points ahead. We'll look at the table in a moment. Other results is Dunbeholden lost to Mount Pleasant 2-1. That game was supposed to be in Dunbeholden in St. Catherine, but some issues happened at their stadium, so they actually had to move it to Drax Hall. Oh my god. I'm sorry. I think I just swallowed the bug. I will continue. So, what was I saying before I swallowed the bug? I don't know, it was a small bug. Anyway, so, I need some water. Oh god. In case you've never been to Jamaica, there's a lot of bugs. A lot of bugs. All right. So going back to what I was saying, Dundee Holden was supposed to play at home, but something happened at their stadium, so that forced them to move to drive to St. Anne, and that's sort of a big deal here in Jamaica because Dundee Holden is located in sort of the Kingston and downtown St. Catherine area, where Mount Pleasant is very far up in St. Anne. It's not so far; it's about a 2-hour drive, an hour and a half, but still having to pack up, organize, and then leave to another parish will take its toll, albeit it's not as good, it's not as big of a toll as flying from one end of USA to the other end. But here in Jamaica, I'm sure it's a bit tough to navigate to those stadiums. So Mount Pleasant being able to stay at home and winning 2-1, I'd say that the home field advantage really played in their favor. And I think Dundee Holden hasn't really shown that they can travel well. They've been sort of slacking on the road lately. I don't have the exact stat, but I know they are not the greatest right now in road games. And Mount Pleasant is very, very good at home. So it was a very good opportunity or stroke of luck that Mount Pleasant was able to play at home in that game. So looking at some other results from yesterday, we have UE tying with Reno 2-2. UE has been playing very well, more than people thought they were this year. And tying 2-2 to Reno is a bit uncharacteristic of the season, if I could say. It looks like they scored first in the opening 12 minutes, followed by Reno scoring twice. So at one point, Reno was up 2-1. And just by looking at that, shows that UE didn't really step up on that game. Now, UE played at home, and Reno are relegation favorites. So if UE really wants to stay in that top 6, they can't have results like this, especially if, against bottom of the table teams. Now going the next game, Harborview and Mobay United. I would have liked to have been at that game. That game finished 3-3. Now at one point, Harborview was winning 3-1 at the 80th minute. Montego Bay came back with Deshane Beckford, who recently came back to Mobay. I think he was playing at Waterhouse or Harborview on loan. But either way, he came back to Mobay, and he was able to put up a goal, almost instantly. So Mobay came back and scored 2 goals in the last 10 minutes, including one in stoppage time. So they were able to tie the game 3-3. Mobay won the championship a few years ago, and now they're really looking at being relegated this season. Some people are saying, I read an article by Paul Reed here in Jamaica, who's saying that relegation for Mobay United isn't the worst case scenario. I haven't been here long enough to know that for sure, but somebody's told me that Cavalier, they got relegated a few years ago and they came back stronger. So if you're going by that sense, then yes, Mobay would benefit from relegation. I mean, that's hard to say. It's hard to say if they'll benefit from relegation, but that's something that we'll have to wait and see. We'll look at the table in a moment. Now, the next game was personally streamed by Island Sports Network here on our YouTube page. So if you go check our archives, was Arnett Gardens versus Tivoli Gardens, and Arnett scoring 3 goals in the first half. I was at that game. I was personally filming that game. Tivoli just did not show up, and I'm just making sure the audio is okay, guys. Yes, okay. So, I was personally at that Tivoli and Arnett game, and Tivoli, I don't know what happened, but they just looked very sloppy. In front of their owner was in the crowd too, and Arnett just has been look great. I mean, what can you say? Now, I wanted to make a comment on that last game that we just streamed. So if you go look at our archives, Tivoli Gardens is probably one of the worst places to stream at the moment. The stadium is not set up for streaming. As you can see, I had some people make some comments already. Why didn't we stream on the other side of the field where there's a big a big canvas area to stream in? The issue with that is that there's 2 very, very large light poles right in the middle of the field, and if I were to go up high on the opposite side, it was gonna block portions of the field, Not only that, it's on a bit of an angle, so you're sort of not directly looking at the field. So I chose to do the opposite side, and that was also very, very tough. There's no good high angle or vantage point to stream it. And on top of that, the internet is not the greatest at Tivoli Gardens. So I may be looking at switching some of our Tivoli home matches. Next week we will be filming in Arnett Gardens, so keep an eye on that. But going back to this, Arnett Gardens just played absolutely lights out. Fabian Reed finally got on the score sheet. I think he may have scored last week too, but he was on a long drought. And Jerome Waite, just the coach of Arnett, looked really happy after that game was over. And yeah, Arnett just really showed up. Tivoli looked gassed out. If Tivoli really wants to make the top 6, they're going to have to change their performance. And really, they were looking strong in the beginning of the season. At one point in the season, I think they were either top of the table or top 2 of the table. And if you just look how far they've slipped, it's just sad. It's just sad to see that from Tivoli because there were such high hopes coming into the season. But Arnett is finally pushing through. It looks like from that win, they're really planning to stay in that top 6 in the playoffs. So we'll see that. So those are the games. Harborview tied again. Mobay 3-3. UE tied 2-2. Dunby Holden lost to Mount Pleasant 2-1, and Cavalier lost to Portmore 1-0. So what does this mean for the points table at the moment? Well, Portmore is still up top with 50 points. Waterhouse, which is second with a game in hand tonight, is at 45 points. So they're going to be looking to really draw closer to Portmore. If they win tonight, they'll be 3 points behind of Portmore, and I believe there's a Portmore Waterhouse game coming up. If I'm correct, I'll have to look at the fixtures, but that would be a big game in itself. But right now, if Waterhouse were to lose this match, lose this game, Portmore would be really in charge of their own destiny to win the league or not. As you know, if you win the league, you win prize amount, prize pool, and then if you win the playoffs, you win another prize. So Portmore, I believe Portmore won last year the playoffs. I'm not sure if they won the league, but yeah. So we're looking at it. So Portmore is in first place, 50 points, 26 games played. Waterhouse second, 25 games played, 45 points. Third place is Cavalier. Again, Cavalier was number 1 2 weeks ago. So they, if Waterhouse were to win today, they would have slipped pretty greatly and be 5 points ahead, 3 points ahead of, 3 points behind of Waterhouse and 5 points behind of Portmore. Fourth place, we have Mount Pleasant at 41 points. First newcomers in the RSPL. They've been playing really well. At least in the beginning of the season, they were sort of playing really well, and they were almost up top at one point. Coach Donovan Ducky recently said that he's not really aiming at winning the league, but he's happy with a top 6 finish to get into the playoffs. Because, in my opinion, I think that is true, because this is your first season in the league. Yes, you'd want to win the championship, but making the playoffs in the first 6 games, the first season in the top 6, is a great achievement for a brand new team in the RSPL, especially a team from another parish in the St. Anne. So Mount Pleasant being 4th place at this point of the season with about 7 games to go is very good for them, and it looks like they're pretty much locked. So when we look at the playoff position, right now number 6 is UE with 38 points. So right now that's the threshold to make it into the playoffs. And Mount Pleasant is at 41. So actually, now that I'm saying that, it's a bit tighter than I initially thought. So they are 3 points behind, 3 points ahead of UE in that safety spot. But if we look at 7th place of Tivoli Gardens, who just got thrashed yesterday, they're at 35 points. So if Tivoli Gardens wants to make it into the playoffs, they have to basically win out or win their next 2 games, and UE to lose their next 2 games. They lucked out with UE tying this season, or yesterday, and but they weren't able to capitalize, and they lost big time to Arnett Gardens. So that looks them looking at. So 4th place again is Mount Pleasant. 5th place is Arnett Gardens with 40 points. At one point, they were looking like, were they going to make the playoffs? They were just on the cusp, but yesterday's win 3-0 against Tivoli really secured that, I think. UE's in 6th place. We're on the playoffs. Now we look at 7th place is Tivoli Gardens at 35 points. And Humble Line, very, very underachieving team this season at 30 points on place 8. So Humble Line has been historically a good team. They won the league a few years ago as well, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And they've always been a playoff team. And now this year, they have fallen off a lot. Now, they're not going to get relegated. It's pretty much guaranteed they're not going to be relegated. But for them to make the playoffs 8 points behind with 7 games to go, or 8 games to go for them, is looking like a monumental task. I don't necessarily think Humble Line can make it, but I think what they have to do is really look at their squad. Do they have to make some serious changes coming next year? Now, one thing they did was transfer one of their big name players to Mount Pleasant in January. So that tells me, if we're looking a bit like the NBA type of thing, there's no draft, but if that's not tanking, I don't want to accuse anyone of tanking, but it looks like they're putting their foot off the gas. They're saying, okay, let's look at this season, let's regroup, and let's really try to come back with a bang next season. Let's rebuild a bit and see what we can do. Humble Line is located in Clarendon, which is a very far parish in Jamaica. So they're not in Kingston. So it takes them some time to travel around the country, and usually every week they're traveling somewhere, unless they're facing Reno, which is relatively closer. They're pretty much traveling all around the island every single week. So Humble Line are always have that disadvantage. They're always going to be a tough road team. So tonight, looking at them coming to Waterhouse, it's going to be another tough challenge for them because now they're traveling very far on a Monday. So I can see some fatigue setting in. The players do get some time to relax, but we'll see. Closing out before we get to the real preview of Waterhouse and Humble Line, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the YouTube comments. I am monitoring it. I see somebody has said Junglist for Life, which is our usual comments, I guess. We have a lot of Arnett supporters and Waterhouse supporters and Portmore supporters to come. Let me know in the comments who you're supporting. So, rounding out the standings, we have Harborview at 26 points, who are looking safe from relegation. At one point in the season, it was looking bad. At one point, it was Harborview. Is Harborview going to go? No. It was, how is Harborview not going to go down? And it really looks like they turned it around. There's no way they're going to make the playoffs. They're 12 points behind. So there's no way Harborview will be making the playoffs. But at least they can say they're safe from relegation from the other teams. So looking at the 3 relegation sort of fighters, I guess, or the relegation favorites. So Harborview, like I said, is at 26 points. Dunbeholden, who lost yesterday, is at 24. Reno at 23. And then Montego Bay United at 20 points at this point of the season. After winning the league 2 years ago, is just disappointing. And Montego Bay United was one of the teams that I personally was excited to come and work with and interview and things like that. And I'm sad to say that the hype has really died down this season. I went to go watch one of their games. The crowds aren't showing up really. They're pretty much guaranteed to be relegated. So they are, not guaranteed, but the way they're playing, granted they did come back from a 3-1 deficit yesterday, but they're 4 points behind the safety of Dunbeholden with 8 games to go. And, they have 7 games to go because there's only 33 games in the season. If they don't pick it up, I think it's either going to be between Dunbeholden, Reno, and Montego Bay United who are going to go down. I do feel Harborview is going to be safe, and if they do get relegated, and I'll eat my words, but I do feel Harborview is going to be safe, and I think it's going to be Reno, Montego Bay, or Dunbeholden who are going to go down. If I were to put my money on it now, I would probably say Montego Bay and Reno. Looking at the goal differential, Montego Bay is at minus 21, and Reno is at minus 16, while Dunbeholden's at minus 9, so they've had a pretty good defense. And then Harborview is actually at minus 15. Now that's a bit misleading because they had 2 games where they lost one game 5-1, 4-1 or 5-1 to Waterhouse, and they lost another game recently. I think it was 3-1 to Harborview. Or sorry, they won. Yeah, Harborview lost to Waterhouse again 3-1. I think of it. So those two games did not help their cause, and so those two teams. Now going into so Raheem Russell says his favorite team is Portmore. So we get a lot of Portmores in our chats, and Portmore's Arnett and Waterhouse. You know, we're looking for some Humble Lions. Where are you guys, Humble Lions? Where are the Humble Lion fans? So tonight, which team am I supporting, Raheem? I've got to stay unbiased as much as I can. Now, I do have a special place in my heart for both Arnett and Waterhouse, and the reason for that is because my first ever game that I came to in Jamaica was Arnett versus Waterhouse in the semi-finals, and it was such a heated game. The atmosphere was absolutely insane. So those two teams I think will always have a special place, but I can't really choose a team to support, and I do have to stay unbiased. I would say I like Humble Lions brand. Coming from a brand ourselves, which is green, and you have an animal as a logo. I like Humble Lions' crest and their color and just their feel. I like Waterhouse's tagline, "Unity is strength." That's always good. I like Portmore too, but the sad thing about Portmore is that they are still playing in Prison Oval, and I said this before. I really hope they find a new place to play. Prison Oval is not a good place for a championship team to play, and the grass is pretty much brown, and it's something that I think, they were playing in the CONCACAF League last year. You're playing yes, they were allowed to play, or they were able to play in the National Stadium, but if you're going to play all your home games at the Prison Oval, it's tough. It's really tough to support that team because the supporters really get crammed into that stadium. And it's sad to see sometimes because I feel like if they had a stadium like this, it would get completely filled out. So in my opinion, I think Portmore should find a new home, but I know there's a whole other politics that goes into that, and if they can. Let me know if I'm a little too dark, guys. I'm trying to, it's getting a bit dark, so the lighting may not be the greatest. So going back into the preview today, we have Waterhouse versus Humble Lion. So Waterhouse, looking at their form, they've won their last game, tied 2. I guess in the last 5 games, they've won 3, tied 2. So they're on an undefeated run in the past 5 games, and I think they're going to continue that. My personal prediction is going to be a Waterhouse victory today, just from the two teams' forms. When we look at Humble Lion, they've lost 3 out of the past 5, including 2 back-to-back losses. So Humble Lion's going to come trying to break that streak and not do a three-peat and lose 3 games in a row. I think it's going to be a bit tough coming to Waterhouse's stadium, Waterhouse's home, and beat them, especially on the Monday night. Now on the Monday nights, the supporters come out to support, and if you've ever seen a Monday night in Waterhouse, now's your chance. We'll have the link is in the description. If you are going to watch today, this game will be in our website exclusively. People ask us why we don't do that on YouTube. So the Monday night games are very well produced games. There are 12 cameras, commentators, graphics, replays, everything. So if those games do have to come under our subscription. If you're not subscribed, you can get a free trial and watch it tonight. But if you are subscribed and you have a chance to watch it, it's a really great quality game, and it's going to be really heated, and you'll get to see the atmosphere in Waterhouse. And I don't see how Humble Lion can come into Waterhouse and beat them, especially after losing 2 back-to-back games and then traveling all the way from Clarendon. If they win, it's going to be a massive upset, and it's going to be hard. And I hope I eat my words, but I don't know necessarily if they have what it takes to beat them. Let me know what your predictions, guys, are. Do you feel it's going to be a Humble Lion victory? Do you think Humble Lion can come into Jerusalem and win and beat Waterhouse at home? Or do you think it's going to be an easy victory for Waterhouse? So continuing on to the preview, Waterhouse is second in the table. Humble Lion is 8th. So there's also a big gap in points. Specifically, Waterhouse is 15 points ahead at this point in the season. There's something to be said about where you are in the standings at this point. Yes, any team can beat any team at any point of the season. This league is very unpredictable. Other than Portmore, really playing up to their name, I'd say that any other team can really pull up an upset. And if there's a team to pull up an upset, I would say it would be Humble Lion against Waterhouse. Humble Lion has a squad. They have Levon Williams in their squad, and I feel like they, with his leadership, can really, be able to come into a hostile environment and be able to come out with a victory. Waterhouse has been just lights out the past few weeks, so I want to see if I can find Waterhouse's victories in the last few weeks, because I know for a fact that they've really been playing well. So last week they went to Harborview and they beat Harborview 3-1. So that was one of the games I was talking about. Harborview did score in the 95th minute, but it was a pretty easy victory. You could have watched that game live on Island Sports Network. We streamed that game live. That game, Waterhouse just completely owned it. There was an issue there with a penalty. Should it have been a penalty? And you can take a look at it for yourself. You go back on our YouTube page. We live streamed the whole game. It did look like a certain penalty, in my opinion, but that was up for debate. And either way, if that penalty was called, I don't see how Harborview could have came back to win, especially the way they were playing. Their new goalkeeper did play well, I would say. Waterhouse had a couple of amazing strikes in that game. And there was a few other, could have easily been more than 3-1, but Waterhouse just demolished that game, in my opinion, and that's why I feel like they're coming up. So before that game, we had UE beat Humble Lion 2-1. Now UE just tied with Reno 2-2, a game they really should have won, and they were able to beat Humble Lion a week ago. So Humble Lion, as you can see, they were playing 2 games back-to-back here in Kingston. So they came to face UE last week. They lost 2-1, had to travel back to Clarendon and come back the next week. These guys don't have the privilege of doing this full time and being able to come to Kingston. Hey, we have 2 games back-to-back. Let's just stay in Kingston and train for the week. No, they do have to go back to Clarendon, then come all the way back for Waterhouse. So that, I think Humble Lions at this point of the season must be fatigued, and I'm wondering if we're going to see that in the match today. And I hope you guys can see that too. Do you think they're going to be fatigued? Because Waterhouse also played in Kingston last week, so they're fresh. They're able to stay at home, no long traveling. I feel like Humble Lion is really going to have a hard time today. I'm still interested to hear any predictions, you guys. Dan Denton says Waterhouse for life. That's a general term I've heard a lot here. Usually the term is Waterhouse for life, right? Everyone says Waterhouse for life. If you're a Waterhouse supporter, you're a die-hard supporter. I saw a friend here. I want to see if I can get him for an interview, but he's not available right now. But if I do see him, I'll see if I can get him to come up here for an interview. Waterhouse. So we have another Waterhouse supporter in our chat. It's for Humble Lion to put out the fire. I think it's going to take a lot. So let's go back again. Before that Harborview game, so 2 weeks ago, Waterhouse actually tied with Mount Pleasant 0-0. They played at home, and we streamed that game again. So you can go back and watch that game on our YouTube page. You can go back and watch that game on the YouTube page, see how they played. Waterhouse did get a red card in the 85th minute, and it was from a rash challenge from, I can't remember who it was, but it was right in the middle of the field. It was from a real rash challenge, and Mount Pleasant tried to really force the numbers forward after that, but unfortunately they couldn't, and they came out with a tie. So going before that, now when I said Waterhouse won 3 of the last 5, this comes from a win last week and then 2 draws. So their second draw was another 0-0 against Dunby Holden. So that, I would say that was disappointing from Waterhouse's point of view. And it says also that nothing really happened that game. There was no bookings. It was just a straight 0-0 draw. Hello. It was a straight 0-0 draw, and it looks like they just haven't been performing those 2 weeks. But going before that, on January 17th, actually, interestingly enough, Waterhouse faced Humble Lion in Clarendon. So 3 weeks ago, this same matchup happened. So this is, I'm just realizing this now. This is the second time in 4 weeks that Humble Lion is facing Waterhouse. Now, Humble Lion did play at home against Waterhouse that game, and Tremaine Stewart scored in the 91st minute in that game. So Waterhouse was able to sneak 3 points away from Clarendon on January 17th. So that's very interesting. Looking at that, Waterhouse is going to try to make it 2 games beaten against Humble Lion in 4 weeks. I know that's really happened before, but that'll be really interesting if it does. And I know Tremaine Stewart is probably going to try to and repeat his effort from that game. So now I personally wasn't able to go watch that game, but looking at that game, it looked like Humble Lion must have been playing very well to lose in the 91st minute. Must have been heartbreak. So that's very sad to see, but it's just how the ball rolls sometimes, and Waterhouse is going to try to repeat that. They took advantage. So going before that, we had Mount Pleasant. So this is the last time Waterhouse lost was in Mount Pleasant, Drax Hall, and that was January 10th. So it's been 31 days since Waterhouse has lost. So they've been going on 1 month unbeaten run. They lost 2-0 against Mount Pleasant with a red card going to Kamar Daly in the 45th minute. So it's been a while back since Waterhouse lost. I really think that they've been finding their stride, especially since coming back from Christmas break. So that was a disappointing loss on their point. And they've been playing pretty lights out after that. Now going back to Humble Lion, if we look at their past 5 games, so as we said, today's the Monday night game. Last week they lost 2-0 to Portmore. Portmore, what can you say? They're top of the table. Probably expected. Now Portmore did have to go to Clarendon to beat them, but it was too expected. Ryan Wellington and Andre Lewis scored those 2 goals against Humble Lion in that game. So a week before that, it looks like Humble Lion also lost to UE, as I was mentioning earlier. They lost 2-1 at UE, and Jermaine Christian, who should be playing today, scored a penalty kick in the 36th minute. And while UE scored 2 goals in the 39th minute and 1 in the 89th minute. So Humble Lion was leading that game 1-0, but they weren't able to hold the game, and unfortunately were eventually lost to UE. So a week before that, Humble Lion, this was an interesting game. On January 20th, Humble Lion beat Arnett Gardens 2-1. Why this was interesting is because Humble Lion never even scored. Humble Lion did not score in this game, yet they won 2-1. How? 2 own goals by Arnett Gardens in that game. Renike Anderson scored an own goal, and we also saw a few weeks after that Renike Anderson letting in a horrible goal from Cavalier, making a huge mistake, basically letting, I think he tried to pass it back to his goalkeeper, but it was too weak, and Cavalier took advantage and scored the goal. I think it was Kahim Paris who scored that goal. So Humble Lion, Arnett scored, Renike Anderson scored on themselves, and Ricardo Oldham scored on himself. So Humble Lion sort of came out with a lucky victory, to be honest. And on top of that, Levon Williams got a red card in the 95th minute, and Fabian Reed tried to salvage something, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Arnett still lost. But I mean, can you really take that win into account? Yes, it's a win on paper, but I wasn't at that game. I would have loved to see that game. They had 2 own goals scored on them. So if you erase those 2 own goals, Fabian Reed was the lone goal scorer for Arnett Gardens. So Arnett Gardens would have technically won that game. But again, the W goes to Humble Lion. That was their last victory. So that's just what I'm mentioning, that you can put that victory in parentheses or in quotation marks. But it's still a victory. And then before that, as I said, they lost to Waterhouse against Tremaine Stewart. Things. So do I know the starting lineups? Not yet. Usually the starting lineups comes a bit late. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it today because I am not personally streaming this game. But if you do want to watch, the links will be in the description below to watch. And usually they do a great job of showing the starting lineups. I know Tremaine Stewart should be starting, but we'll see. We have Joseph Carter saying Waterhouse will be beating Humble Lion 2-0. So there's another prediction by Joseph, who thinks Waterhouse, as I've been saying, will come out the victors in this game. Live TV. Unfortunately, that's not the correct link. If you want the correct link to this game, please go to the description below and sign up for a free trial, and you can watch this game live. We have Tom Mob saying, "What a jungle is for life." Usual comments in our videos. So, what other talking points do we have? I'm just taking a quick look at the lighting because it is getting a bit dark. It looks like we are okay. I am legible, if that's a word to describe my face. Going on that, I just want to say that personally, my name is Brandon Carvalho. I am the co-founder of Island Sports Network. I am not a journalist, and I'm trying my best, but we are looking to hire some local journalists here, and we have a local journalist coming up soon who will be taking my place during doing these live streams. I may make an appearance here and there, but I am actively looking to be replaced. I know I'm not the greatest at these. I'm working to improve every day, but just a little tidbit for you guys. So, I guess to take a quick look at the stadium, this is Jerusalem Stadium, and this is this stadium was partially funded or mostly funded. I don't know the exact logistics of it, but I know Tankwell, the large company here in Waterhouse, had a big part to play in building the stadium. It's very close to it is in the community of Waterhouse. I came from actually the opposite side of the goalie, so if you go to that goalie and go to the other side, that's where the real community of Waterhouse takes place. And then you sort of have to cross that to get to the stadium. But this stadium's always been a great place for the community to come and support their team, and really, it's been a great atmosphere since it's been built. I believe this was built in early 2000s. I don't know the exact year, but it's built sometime there. Okay, so I will try to find somebody to interview before. Excuse me. Let me find. Would one of you guys like to be interviewed real quick, just about who you think is going to win tonight? No? Would you like to? Just real quick. Who do you think is going to win? Waterhouse, by how many? 2-0? Okay, so we got another Waterhouse victor prediction, 2-0 by a supporter here in Waterhouse. I will try to find someone to interview. But in the meantime, if anybody has any questions, again, feel free to ask. I will repeat that this game will be live on our website, Island Sports Network. The link is in the description below. Or you can download our apps, Island Sports Network. Not only do you get this game, but you'll get Barbados Premier League, you'll get Kasafa Super League, and any other games that we continue. We also have the Trinidad Super League starting up in June, so be on the lookout for that. And the price is $3.99 US per month. 50% of that goes back to the league, and it does go back to, for example, helping the fields become a bit better maintained, and it's something that we're really actively trying to pursue here in Jamaica. So, going back to the future fixtures now, I want to take a quick look at who Waterhouse is going to be playing in the next 3 weeks and who Humble Lion is going to be playing in the next 3 weeks. So, I'm just going to grab some water here real quick. Okay. So when we look at next week, oh, interesting. Waterhouse has 2 back-to-back Monday nights. So next week, Waterhouse will be traveling to the Anthony Spaulding Sports Complex. No, not against Arnett Gardens, against Cavalier. So Cavalier has been playing their home games recently at the Arnett Gardens Stadium. So their next Monday night will be in the Arnett Gardens Anthony Spaulding Sports Complex in the jungle. Now, last time I was there, last week's Monday night, the showing wasn't the greatest, obviously because it is in the Arnett area. Cavalier fans did not travel too well to that game. There was some diehard fans there. again, it was, to be clear, it was Cavalier versus UE. So UE, in my opinion, now this may be controversial or not, but UE, in my opinion, probably has the least amount of supporters, I would say, in the league. Cavalier is rising rapidly. Now, to be fair, I haven't been to a Dundee Holden game, but I've been to UE games, and usually it's quite sparse. And when they have a Monday night game and they travel away, I'm hard pressed to find UE fans. I was hoping that UE students would come out to support UE, as you see, for example, in the North America, colleges coming out to support their teams for the NCAA and things like that. That hasn't really happened for UE. I'm hoping that changes, and I feel like UE should really drive a new marketing effort to get some of those students to come and watch and really support, because I feel like that team could be a really well supported team, getting the school to come in and help out. So going back to the preview of the next fixtures, Waterhouse will be playing Cavalier in the jungle next week at 8:30 against Cavalier. So that's going to be a big game. Why is that going to be a big game? Because right now, Cavalier and Waterhouse are tied for points. Waterhouse has a game in hand, which is tonight. But if they win tonight, then they'll be 3 points ahead of Cavalier. And if they beat Cavalier next week, then all of a sudden they'll be 6 points clear of Cavalier and closer to Portmore than they will be Cavalier. And Cavalier will be falling a bit behind after being in the number 1 spot last week. So that's going to be a big game. And I'm going to be doing something similar to this next week at the Jungle. So keep an eye on that. Now, if Humbeline win this game, that's going to make it a bit more interesting for Cavalier next week, because that means Cavalier can really jump ahead of Waterhouse after that game is over. So, going back to the next fixtures, after that, Humbeline, this is another interesting fact, Humbeline will be traveling back here to St. Catherine to face Dundee Holden next week. That means that they came against UE last week, Waterhouse this week, and then Dundee Holden next week. If this isn't a big road trip, I don't know what is. I feel like Humbeline really, this is the time, you know how they say in North American sports, the road trips really what make or break your season. I feel like they need to come out with some victories in this road trip. That's 3 games back to back to back. They're going to have to travel down to the area, to the Kingston area, to play their games, and that's just how the reverse fixtures go. I'm sure last week they had 3 home games, but round 1. But it's going to be very tough for them to do that back to back to back. So it's looking a little grim right now for Humbeline. But as I said earlier, I think personally Humbeline should take the rest of the season and rebuild to see how they can come back with a fight next season. So maybe play some of your youngsters. I'm not sure if they signed any schoolboy players, because that just came out this past few weeks. But in my opinion, Humbeline should be playing a bit more of their younger players. Yes, they're probably going to lose more games, but I think they're safe from relegation, and I think they're a bit too far to battle for promotion at this point. So I think get the youngsters the playing time, maybe try out some new tactics, plan something for next year, play some of the players you don't usually play, see who should be staying in the squad, maybe take this next few weeks to really decipher who you should keep, who should go next season. And yeah, so I know I'm not a coach, I've never been a coach, but that's just my thought from experience of being around the game. So those are the next 2 games against that Waterhouse and Humbeline will be playing. Another very, very, I'm sorry, I made a bit of a mistake. Next week, Humbeline will be playing at home. I actually misread it, but Humbeline will be playing at home to Mobay. So I was a bit confused by this. So next week, Humbeline will be playing at home to Mobay, so they won't have that back-to-back-to-back. But that does mean they'll be doing 3 road games in the next 4. So they can, I feel like if whatever happens here today, they can come out with a victory over Mobay. Everything else I said still applies. They should still play their youngsters. Let's try a new rotation. I think they're still a bit too far to playoffs. But here's the interesting fact I was about to say. Waterhouse plays Monday night today. Waterhouse plays Monday night next week. And then Waterhouse plays Monday night again in 3 weeks. So that's 3 straight back-to-back-to-back Monday night games Waterhouse will be playing. Wow, that's, in my opinion, I feel like it should be spread around a bit more, but the Waterhouse fans, I'm sure, aren't complaining. So they got Humble Line today, Cavalier next week, and then they're going to play at home to Reno on the 25th of February on the Monday night. So you're going to be seeing me here a bit more often in the next few weeks. But Waterhouse lucked out, got 3 Monday night games in a row. They're really good for their coverage. Now keep in mind that we will also be streaming. So next week we are planning to stream Arnett versus UE next week at the next Sunday at the Anthony Spalding Sports Complex right here on the Island Sports Network YouTube. Arnett is playing at home to UE. Then the week after that, we will be streaming Portmore versus Arnett Gardens, which is going to be a heated game and a big game at Prison Oval, so keep an eye on that. And then the next few weeks are a bit aren't entirely solidified yet, but I think we will be streaming Arnett versus Waterhouse on Sunday, March 3rd at the Anthony Spalding Sports Complex, followed by the week after that. Now, I had on our schedule Tivoli Gardens versus Portmore that we were going to stream. That may be changing to Mount Pleasant versus Cavalier, and I do plan to go up to Drax Hall to stream that game on March 10th. And actually, I may be streaming 2 Sundays in a row at Mount Pleasant, as Mount Pleasant go off against Arnett Gardens the week after. So those are going to be 2 games that you can look forward to here. Now I'm just going to take a quick look at see if you have any questions coming in. Can I interview a player for Humble Line? I don't believe I will be able to, just for the fact of the players are in the tunnel right now. I can try, but that means I will have to get out and try to find a player, and who knows how long that may take. I am working with some technical people here in the staff, and this is actually something new that we're starting this week, a live Q&A before every Monday night. So this is our first Monday night Q&A. Next week, stay tuned for Cavalier and Waterhouse. I do plan to seek out some players to come and interview during that time. At the moment, I'll see if I can find some fans to interview. But it's already 7 p.m. and the stadium is looking a little light, you know. I know sometimes fans here in Jamaica come, very, very close to game time. But I was expecting a bit closer, a bit more people to come and take a look. So let me know, do you guys have any more questions about our product, about what we're doing here in Jamaica, about the game in general? Unfortunately, I don't have the lineups yet. But it is something that we are working on. But either way, the lineups will be shown during the live stream. Link is below. You can sign up for a free 7-day trial. You just click that link and it'll take you straight there. Or you can download our Island Sports Network mobile app. The Monday nights are paid, but after that, you can also sign up for a free trial if you're not subscribed. But everything after that, all the Casafa games are free. The Barbados games are free. And the Arnett or the Red Stripe Sunday nights are free as well. So if you'd like to support us, you can subscribe there for $3.99. But there is free games there too, so feel free to download our apps for that. I'm just going to grab some water as my throat is getting a bit dry. But let me know if you guys have any questions. I see we have about 13 people here. I will see if I can get a member of the staff here at Waterhouse to come out and give us a chat or an interview. So, looking for feedback. What do you guys think? How do you guys like the Q&A? Is it a bit dark still, or how is it? It looks like it's a bit light. The lights are coming on, so it's not so bad. Yeah, so looking at some more talking points, something that I want to mention is that our Facebook page is going through a little bit of a rough patch. We had an issue with the German Football Federation because we posted something about Leon Bailey. and unfortunately, the German Football Federation did contact Facebook about our post. So we are working with the German Football Federation. They're all playing very nice. So our Facebook page should be back up in this week, we hope. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram, Island Sports Net, or Twitter, Island Sports Net as well. And you can stay tuned for any for all the news as we hear them testing some music here. So I want to take a quick look at the goals. At the goal scorers so far in the season. At one point, Fabian Reed was number one by far. He did go on I think 4 or 5 game goalless drought, yet he's still tied for first place in goals. So tied for first place between Colorado Murray and Fabian Reed. Colorado Murray of Tivoli Gardens and Fabian Reed of Arnett Gardens, they both have 10 goals each. So again, if Fabian Reed didn't go through that goal drought, I feel like he would be on track to win Golden Boot of the season again. But unfortunately, he did go through that goal drought, and now he's tied for first, which is still good. Next, we have Rondy Smith of Portmore at 9 goals, and I'm surprised Javon East isn't as high because I feel like every week he's scoring. Rondy Smith of Portmore is next. Now, Tremaine Stewart, who you will be seeing today, is tied for second with 9 goals as well. So Tremaine Stewart has been playing very well. You will be seeing him here. He's probably one of the key marksmen for Waterhouse. And I feel that if Humble Line don't lock him down, they're just asking for a goal to happen. Next up, we have Alex Marshall of Cavalier with 8 goals. And then we have Nicholas Hamilton of Cavalier with 7 goals. So you have a couple Cavaliers in mid-table, which I think makes sense for where they're at. You know, they're up high. Cavalier is more of a team effort. They don't really have that one standout player. They are more of a team, and they are really playing, and they're playing like it, right? They're playing like a team. They've meshed very well. Rudolph Speed, you have to give props to him. He's managed to put a very young core on the field, and he's just been really playing well. And I spoke with him recently, and he has bigger aspirations. After the Red Stripe Premier League, who knows what they can do continentally? I mean, yes, Jamaican teams in general haven't had the best success in continentally. I think Portmore had one of the best runs last season in the CONCACAF League, but with Cavaliers, such a young core, unless he goes off and sells most of his young core, I feel like they can at least fight for the CONCACAF League and maybe even try to qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League. I know this season we have a team from Dominican Republic representing the Caribbean in the CONCACAF Champions League, but I feel like a Jamaican team is right on the cusp of going to the CONCACAF Champions League probably next year. Now the CFU Club Cup, the Caribbean Club Cup, is coming up shortly. It's coming up in May. We are looking at acquiring those rights, so if you're interested in the Caribbean Club Cup, stay tuned to our Facebook page, our Instagram, and everything along those lines. We have been in talks with Flow to get some rights for the Caribbean Cup. Raheem Russell is asking me what country I'm from. I'm personally from Canada, Toronto, Canada, but I've been living here in Jamaica since last August. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. I'll go ahead and repeat again. If you want to watch this game live, you can find it in the description below, and you can get more information there. But this game right now, this is just a Q&A. We won't have the live game here. Will you guys broadcast the ISA Schoolboy football in the upcoming season? Nicardo Reed is asking. So I don't know if I'm at liberty to say this. I have spoken with ISA. ISA has a contract currently with a local company here called Sportsmax that they do film and stream the games. But I have been approached by some schools, and I have announced this here and there. But what I will say is that we're working with a couple big name schools, sort of as a test, to film and stream their schoolboy football matches that do not get the broadcast, the national broadcast, the usual national broadcast. So if Sportsmax is filming a game for somebody, we will be there. However, if there's a school that's not being filmed that game that day, we will. I won't say we will be there yet, but we are planning to do it, and we are speaking with some big name schools that have been in the Costa Cup, maybe finals, the Costa Cup, no, Manning Cup. Sorry, teams that have been in the Manning Cup. So keep an eye on that. We do want to go for the Costa Cup as well. Right now, so Raheem Russell, can we upload? Before I get to your question, Raheem. Ricardo, I want to say that right now our company is still a bit new. We started last August in the beginning of the season. So most of our base is in Kingston. We are looking to spread our crew to other parishes, so that's why the Costa Cup is a bit tough. I hope I'm getting that right. Manning Cup is the Kingston area, and the Costa Cup is the country side of the cup. So most of our filming and streaming will come here in Kingston, but we are working to get a crew. Another thing I want to mention, all our crew will be hired locally in Jamaica. Everything we do will be authentic Jamaican. My co-founder is from the Caribbean, and we are trying to really give back to the communities here. So Raheem Russell asks, can we upload this match? Unfortunately, we can't due to rights. But if you want to watch it, you can subscribe for a free trial down below in our description box. Or if you'd like, Raheem, you can personally message us or personally message me, Brandon at islandsports.net, and I'll give you a free month subscription for 1 month. Usually our free trials is 7 days. But if you give me your email, I can give you a free month, and you can go ahead and watch every past game of the season as well. So feel free to do that. If you do email me, Brandon at islandsports.net, and we'll get you a free subscription. I'll say that to everybody in the chat. If you want a free month to our platform just for being here in this live stream, email me directly, Brandon at islandsports.net. I'll get you a free month, and then you can take it from there if you want to continue on. Again, half of all subscriptions go right back to the Premier League. We give monthly wires, monthly reports straight to the PLCA and the Registered Premier League. They know exactly what's going on, and we're really trying to give back with your help. So, going back to the Waterhouse and Humble Lion game, I just wanted to say that I think Tremaine Stewart is usually the heart of the Waterhouse team, just coming from his past few games and being up there in the goal scorer. I just want to say that I think if Humble Lion, because I know earlier in the stream, if you haven't joined us, earlier in the stream I mentioned that I really feel like Humble Lion is going to be hard-pressed to find a win in this match. But if Humble Lion can find a way to trap and really put a damper on what Tremaine Stewart does, I think they can come away with a victory or at least a draw. And but if they let Tremaine Stewart run his usual game, I don't see a way Humble Lion can come out as victors, especially if he ends up scoring. So unfortunately, I do have to plug in something here to charge, or else I will lose my internet. Feel free to ask me any questions, guys. We're here in the Jerusalem Stadium, streaming this live. What inspires you to do all of this Island Sports Network brand? So it's a bit of a long story that I'll get to. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. I'm just quickly plugging in my internet device before I lose internet. I'll be right back, guys. I apologize. Okay, so Ricardo Reed asks, No, no, you sure? Okay. Okay. So, Ricardo Reed asks, what inspires you to do all this in the Island Sports Network brand? It comes from my past employment. So I used to work in Caribbean television, a company called Cala Weather, where we covered weather and we also had some classic channels, things like that. But I've always been a sports fan, and I've always been a sports fan of unknown or relatively unknown leagues, and just seeing communities and football grow in general. So as I was in my old position at this television network, I would always look for sports in the Caribbean, try to go to matches when I can. And I did notice when I was here in Jamaica, I would attend some football matches here in Jamaica, and I felt like there's so much potential in this league. I mean, you get probably the biggest crowds of any island here in the Caribbean. So just going off of that, I felt that this game needed to be spread more. You know, I always have the analogy, people in Jamaica love watching the English Premier League. Why can't people in England want to watch the Jamaican Premier League? So that's sort of the philosophy I'm trying to get at. Yes, I'm also, as I was here, I noticed that local Jamaicans have a hard time even watching their own games. So that's another thing I'm trying to ease the access to, because our initial thought here to come here was to really grow the game, grow the league, help the fields, and just be able to give back. But now I realize that even though some of the local people in Jamaica have a hard time watching their own league. So we've changed our philosophy a bit in trying to get people in the Caribbean to watch their own leagues. And that's sort of how it all started. I've always just been passionate about giving back, I guess. It's hard to explain, but I'm happy to be involved. And it's also something really fun. You know, I get to come watch football matches for a living. So those are some of my, I guess, inspirations. But really, it's seeing a product grow that I'm proud to be a part of, and spreading the name of the Jamaican Premier League. We have people subscribe to our service from China, from Singapore, from Finland, and that's really what we're trying to do. Trying to get the word out, trying to get Jamaican football completely out there. One thing that I'm going to have to do, going back to your question, Ricardo, earlier about the schoolboy football. Schoolboy football was a bit confusing to me. I know right now it makes perfect sense of how it works, but it was very confusing to me in the beginning. So right now we're working out ways to find out what the easiest way to explain what schoolboy football is and what it means to the island. So keep an eye out for a documentary that we're producing. It's going to be about schoolboy football and sort of that Vice style of documentaries. How the history is, why it's so popular, why it's more popular arguably than the Premier League, and just the history of it, how it works, how the format is, where do the schoolboy players come from, where do they go, how do they succeed, do they become bigger players. You know, the best analogy I can get to schoolboy football is akin to NCAA in the US. It's very similar, and the passion for the NCAA is arguably said to be more than the NFL. So that's one of the points we're going to be trying to hit home. Hello, Omar from Maypen. Nice to see you. So as we see more fans coming in. So you can probably see behind me the TV crews are doing some previews. Usually what they do is they throw to the games afterwards. Okay, so going back to today's game, do you guys have any thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments below who you guys think will be the MVP of this game. Who do you think will score first? Place your bets. Let me know what you think. I think personally, as I said, I think if Tremaine Stewart is let loose, I don't see how he's not going to score. I think Levon Williams needs to put a hold on this game. Levon Williams, I think is, if my memory serves correct, he's a midfielder, and he really tries to be the rock of the team. if he doesn't be able to get a good presence and a good, really try to control the flow of the match, Waterhouse can easily pull through. So I want to give a couple news bits. We have some Kasafa coming up. If you go to this YouTube channel, if you go to our channel, you can see I've scheduled all our Kasafa games. So we'll be live streaming every Friday and Saturday back-to-back Kasafa games. That includes Santos and that includes Boys Town. We just finished streaming Boys Town last Saturday. So if you want to watch Boys Town versus Santos, feel free to go back and watch it. Unfortunately, I was originally supposed to stream every Kasafa game, but due to some scheduling changes, unfortunately the schedule changed from Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And due to my commitment to streaming Sunday night football for the Premier League, I'm unable to stream Sunday night Kasafa games. But if you're interested in Kasafa, we'll be streaming every Friday and Saturday right here on Island Sports Network's YouTube page and our website, islandsports.net. We're also in final discussions with the TT Super League in Trinidad. We will be streaming the Trinidad Super League. Unfortunately, that league will be one game a week. We're partnering with a TV company in Trinidad to produce those games. However, we do have some contacts that we are hoping to get into, which is track and field in Trinidad. Some of the big name schools in Trinidad, we're looking to get their track and field. So if you want to assist us in that, you can subscribe. And again, all of your subscriptions go to us helping either getting those leagues or helping stream those leagues, because not a lot of them even have the ability to stream. So coming up this week in Kasafa, on Friday we have Central Kingston versus Santos. Central Kingston, we saw on Friday, they have numerous amount of Manning Cup finalists in that team. I think Central Kingston is famous for having a lot of schoolboy players. So if you're interested in watching some Kasafa, stay tuned to our YouTube page. After that, we have Brownstown versus Rockford. I think Brownstown won last week 3-1. They had a very large victory. Rockford, unfortunately, I haven't been able to see yet. And then followed by Saturday, we have Constant Spring versus Mead Forest. This is Constant Spring's first game in the first year in the Super League for a few years. They were just in the Major League last year, which is the third division. They won it, so now they're in the second division. I actually was talking with the owner of Constant Spring. I believe his name's Danny. I unfortunately don't know his last name, but he's telling me he's going to win it. He was stone cold confident. Constant Spring will be in the Premier League next season. So I'm going to try to get an interview with the Constant Spring owner for you guys next week, probably before the game starts. So keep an eye on that. I want you guys to see his eyes as he says Constant Spring will win the Super League, they'll win the playoffs, they'll be in the Red Stripe Premier League next season. They lost they lost 4-1 in their first game of the season, so who knows how serious that is. But last Saturday they looked a lot better, and they lost 1-0 on a free kick. But that's he's still keeping the dream alive. You just got to come up with the top 4 for the Super League. After that, we have Molines versus Real Mona next Saturday at 8:30. So then we have back-to-back Kasafa games. After that, we have Arnett Gardens versus UE next Sunday, 7 p.m. at the Arnett Gardens Anthony Spalding Sports Complex. We'll be live streaming that game. That game is going to be a good mid-table game. I feel Arnett Gardens right now and UE are around the same position, and this is a good time to see what is the divide like. Arnett Gardens is a bit ahead of UE. Is there a big really disparity between them, or are they exactly right where they should be? Then we had the Monday night Cavalier vs Waterhouse right on our website. See if you guys have any more questions. Not at the moment. So that's a bit of a preview of our schedule coming up. I will be in the jungle next week with a preview just like this. I will try to get some players, maybe some coaches, to come out and talk with us during the Q&A. This is our first time trying this out for online streaming. We're about an hour till kickoff, We will be closing the Q&A in about 15 minutes, so if you have any questions, let me know. But I just want to say that to watch this game, again, link is in the description. All support goes right back to these leagues. So I'm also looking for feedback for our service. If you want to give us some feedback, you can email us at info@islandsports.net. Let us know what you think of these new ideas that we're trying out. It's never really been done, before in the Premier League. Usually you have the broadcast, and that's it. There's not much interactivity, so we're trying to be a bit more interactive. We recently streamed the Arnett Gardens training facility, so we're going to be planning to do that again for the next Arnett game. But yeah, we're trying to figure out if you guys like these new initiatives. What do you think? I'm also looking for journalists. If you're a journalist and interested in working for us, you can email us at info@islandsports.net. If you're interested in being a commentator, I get same email, or you can DM us on Instagram, islandsportsnet, and we can answer you right from there. We're also looking for cameramen. If you're a cameraman in Jamaica, please let us know. What we usually do is do a trial run, and then we negotiate thereafter. So Nicardo says, I hope this channel stick around for many years to come, because it's so much easier to keep up with football games in Jamaica when you're live aboard. Thank you, Nicardo. Really appreciate that. One thing that we notice is sometimes the lack of communication for the league. We are a small team. I want to say that. We are a small team. We're trying our best to keep things up to date. And we try our best to follow up every single week and every single game. We are looking to help the Premier League to improve their coverage for social media. So that's something that we're always working towards. We feel like there should be an easy place to follow the Premier League. What we want to do is we want to do a highlight show every single week, every Tuesday, right here on this channel at the Jamaican Football Federation, review the past games and preview the next games. If you're interested in being on that podcast-like stream, we're looking for fans to interact with us. We're looking for people to be involved in this podcast because we want to try our best to preview every game. The other thing that we're working towards is we're hiring a cameraman to go to every single game. It's not going to be live streamed because right now the logistics is too much to live stream every game, but we are trying to get a cameraman from every single game, and then in our highlight show we showcase all the highlights of the week. So that way you get an idea, you get to see every single goal, every single minute of action in those games. One issue we're facing here is the lack of, I guess, knowledge. And now I'm not going to say that in terms of all of Jamaica, but some of the people here, some of the journalists are stuck in the ways in terms of DVDs, sending us DVDs and tapes and things like that. Because when there's a game, for example, Humble Lion playing in Clarendon, for us to get a DVD, it's kind of ridiculous because now we have to wait for the DVD to be shipped, which is a few hours later. What we want is that file, that game, to be sent to us ASAP online so that we can post it the same night. So it's really a training. We're really trying to train these people into using some new software that you may have heard of, like Dropbox, Google Drive, WeTransfer, to get us these games ASAP. Another issue that we face is the internet connection can be somewhat slow at times. So sending a 5 gigabyte file is going to take 24 hours at some places, like Clarendon or St. Anne. So we're also working to get to see if there's a way around that. Any questions in terms of, thank you for the subscriptions. If you're subscribing to our YouTube page, we thank you. Welcome to the Island Sports Network team. So let me know if you guys have any more questions. I've sort of covered everything I could. We want to know who are you a fan of? Do you think, are you a Waterhouse fan? Do you think they're going to win? Are you a Humble Lion fan? Do you think they're going to win? Or are you a fan of Arnett and hope it's a tie, right? Are you a fan of Cavalier and hope it's a draw? Actually, if you're a fan of Arnett or Cavalier, you'd hope Waterhouse would lose. I think if you're anywhere in the top 4, you're hoping Waterhouse loses. And if you're everywhere else, you're hoping it's a draw. Or I guess it doesn't really play too much because it's hard pressed for Humble Line to really make the playoffs at this point. So I'm quickly looking at some of the fixtures coming up. We have, after this game is over, we have 8 games remaining, 7 games remaining in the season. It's coming down to the wire, followed by playoffs. This Portmore is probably my favorites right now to win, just from their form and just the quality of play throughout the season. They've been the most consistent team. Mount Pleasant has been the most inconsistent. They had a huge start to the season. They won a lot of games. They were almost first place at one point. And then I remember one game they lost in Arnett on a Sunday night. And they lost 1-0 from a really bad goalkeeping error on the side of Mount Pleasant. And I feel like after that they've been very inconsistent. Mount Pleasant also has a very large squad. From what I've known, they rotate extensively, and they're constantly looking to add new players. So they just signed a player from Humble Line this season. In January. So they even added more to their squad. Mount Pleasant, I think, if they can find a core group to mesh well, they can really make a real run to the playoffs. Right now, Mount Pleasant, they're constantly rotating their players. It's hard to find a consistent form by constantly rotating your players. You want to get your players comfortable with each other. When there's a new person, maybe he's not going to make the pass that the other person usually does, and so you make your run where he ends up crossing the ball instead. It's a basic example, but that could be something that comes into play by having these inconsistencies of players. I don't think they've had as much injury problems as they have, say, at Arnett, but I know they've had a couple injuries. But going on that, what I'm trying to say is if they find a consistent core group and get into a consistent form, I think they can make a real run, and I think they could win the league in their first season, which would be unprecedented. But I really do think they can win. When you look at the opposite side, which is Dunby Holden, I think they can really be relegated. And this is Dunby Holden. It's really a tale of two teams. Mount Pleasant playing really well, the first season in the league, and Dunby Holden playing very poor. And they just clashed last week. So the two new teams face each other, and you could see the difference in quality. So I think Dunby Holden will be relegated this season. Again, I may eat my words. Luckily, I'm not a journalist officially, so if I'm wrong, that's nothing too bad. But my prediction is Dunby Holden and Mobay to be relegated, and Reno to survive, and Harborview to survive. If Dunby Holden make it, I'll be very surprised. Montego Bay, I don't want to count out Montego Bay yet. They signed, I think, 2 or 3, maybe even 4 Ghanaians, 4 players from Ghana. Maybe it was just 2, I'm just remembering it correctly. But Montego Bay recently signed 2 men from Ghana to play in their squad. And from what I heard, they played very well last week. They were down 3-1, and apparently they meshed well with the group, and they were able to salvage a 3-3 tie in that game against Harborview yesterday. So if those Ghanaians can mesh well with I know I say that a lot, but if they can really settle in, Montego Bay can have a chance to come up, and then we'll get most likely Reno and Dunby Holden to get relegated. Do you know when is going to start the Jackie Bell Cup? I don't know. Neville, is the Jackie Bell Cup going to be starting this season? Do you know? It will be? Oh, okay. Okay, and when does that usually start? About now? Okay. So I see. Okay. So the Jackie Bell Cup, as I heard from Neville Bertis here, Jackie Bell Knockout. Okay, the Jackie Bell Knockout Cup. Thank you so much, Neville. Neville is the commentator here for Television Jamaica. He does a great job. So to answer your question, Rafael Mercado, the Jackie Bell Cup should be starting now. Usually what happens is, I've just been informed, it's just Kingston and St. Andrew area, but all the smaller teams and lower league teams should be starting now, and then the Premier League teams will probably come in the next few weeks. So what I'm going to do is, knowing that now, is I'm going to really try to find more information about the Jackie Bell Cup. I am in the Jamaican Football Federation tomorrow, so I'm going to get some more information about the Jackie Bell Cup, scheduling wise, when players are going to play. Maybe we'll stream some games, we'll see. I'd love to stream some Jackie Bell Cup, and we'll get that for you right away. You can hear that on our Facebook page, which should be up this week. Right now it's gone, but we have a replacement page for now, ISN Social, or we'll have it on our Instagram, Island Sports Net on our Instagram. So any information we get for the Jackie Bell Cup, we'll make sure to have it for you. Rafael Mercado. May I ask, Rafael, where are you from? And are you in Jamaica? And if not, where are you from? How did you become a fan of Jamaican football? So to get our new viewers up to date, we have about 17 viewers, a bit more. The Waterhouse and Humble Line game will be kicking off in about 1 hour's time. The game will start at 8:30. The game will be live at our link below, Island Sports Network, on our website, islandsports.net, or you can download our apps, Island Sports Network. All Monday nights are exclusively on the app. You need to sign up for that. You get a 7-day free trial if you're not subscribed. But every other game on there is free. So the only games that are paid are these Monday night games, but everything else is free. So also keep an eye on that. Maybe we will be live streaming some Jackie Bell. We'll see. So I can't remember exactly what I was saying before. I was speaking a bit about Montego Bay and the new transfers. And I have a picture of some of the transfers of the season. So I'm going to quickly load that up. So I have the transfers of the season. So going back to what I was saying at Humble Lion, Mount Pleasant, I'm just looking here. So Mount Pleasant signed Francois Swaby. I hope I'm saying that right. From Humble Lion. Francois Swaby was a reggae boy. He played for the national team. He's a veteran. I think he's about 33, 32, maybe 34, around there, that age. But I know he was playing for Humble Lion. But sorry about that. I felt a fly. A lot of bugs come here because of the lights. Interesting fact, the lights are so close to this area where the television broadcasters are. There's always a lot of flies here. So Francois Swaby, if you want to Google him or Wikipedia search, Swaby, okay, thank you. Francois Swaby, who was playing for Humble Lion, recently got transferred to Mount Pleasant. So that's a veteran presence going away from Humble Lion. So it's going to be interesting to see how Humble Lion reacts to that, and does that impact them a lot? And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, is maybe they're trying to rebuild a bit, trying to get younger. They're out of playoff position, so maybe they're trying to play some of their younger guys to get going. So we'll see. Did you want to be interviewed? You sure? Did I? This is live this time though. Yeah. Okay, so going over some more transfers. Humble Lion made 5 total transfers, and one, interestingly enough, they transferred from Waterhouse. They signed Gary McIntosh. So I don't have the match cards yet, but it'll be interesting to see if Gary McIntosh, who was playing at Waterhouse, is going to be on the field today for Humble Lion. Let me know if you guys can hear me. They just turned up the music a bit. And if not, I can always move. I want to give you guys a quick little behind-the-scenes look at the commentators. Oh, thank you, Rafael. So Rafael Mercado is from Mexico. He follows the league and he subscribed to our channel. So thank you so much. Muchas gracias, Mercado, para tu ver mi canal. Y yo espero te gusta todo el fútbol de Jamaica. Y yo espero tú vas a esperar aquí y va para mi link en la descripción para ver este partido en poco tiempo. Este partido va comienzo en 1 hora y este partido es solo en la website islandsports.net and tú puedes ver todo y la precio es 13.99 US para mes y solo por los lunes, I think lunes is Monday, only for Mondays, y todo is free. So I'm going to show you guys a quick behind the scenes look. Quick behind the scenes look of some of the cameramen here. This is where the commentators will be commentating from. So as we can see, this is Neville Bertis. He is a commentator for Television Jamaica, a very well-established commentator. And then as we can see, there's 2 sets of commentators, one for Sportsmax and one for Television Jamaica. So they both will be commentating here on this game. And then we have more people up top there. We have cameramen up top. Then cameramen all around. So I'm not sure if you can tell, but that's a camera right there here at Jerusalem. And yeah, so this is a bit of behind the scenes. They're still preparing. So that's Neville getting some of the match cards going. He's doing his sort of due diligence, getting his notes ready to go for the game, and things like that. If you guys have any questions for him, he's very friendly. I can ask him some questions. There's a representative from Sportsmax coming to do some behind the scenes work. So this is all the stuff that happens without you guys, without you guys seeing it, right? And we're happy to sort of share this with you guys. This is the VIP section. This is sort of the VIP section where a lot of the club owners and the club people come to watch the game, and supporters too. It's not exclusive, but supporters do come. I see a friend there. I'll try to get him an interview. So here we are back in. Okay, so we're back in Jerusalem. Hope you guys can see me okay. Let me know if you have any more questions. Again, we're going to be finishing up very shortly. Camera crews are getting ready. We have some fans starting to file in. And again, if you want to watch this game, the links are in the descriptions below. Daz, I'm so sorry if I get your name wrong. I'm so sorry. Daz Napton is your last name. I believe it's silent. Okay, please correct me. I'm from the UK, massive JPL fan, and glad to be able to watch. I follow Harborview, cheering for Humbeline Football Club tonight. Glad to see you, Daz. Hope I'm saying your name right again. Correct me. It's great to see a fan from UK. We're trying to get the JPL out there, trying to market it better, trying to get more people to watch. So tonight's game is only in the link below, and but we're so happy to see you. All other games are streamed on our YouTube page. We are trying to kick the production up a little bit, but for now, that's sort of the best resources we can get. If you go, for example, see our Tivoli game from yesterday, Tivoli Gardens is one of the hardest games to stream in. The internet gives me about 1 megabit per second to work with, so I can barely stream at 720 HD. So in the future, we may have to stream at 480 in Tivoli Gardens. But we're so glad to see you, Daz. happy to have you involved in the Jamaican Premier League, and this is just the beginning. The Jamaican Premier League is going to be worldwide, I'm telling you. There's so much potential. It's the only league that I've seen that gets such massive crowds, massive crowds. Yeah, every game doesn't get filmed, every game doesn't get covered. You know, there's so much potential in this, and it has its own quality. It has its own brand of football. It's different from every other football I've seen. Yes, the quality on the pitch isn't a English Premier League or even an MLS or even some Central America, but it's its own brand. It's its own brand, and it's something that I feel is only going to grow if it's done right. One issue in Jamaica, I don't want to say because sometimes it can be taken out of context, but sometimes there's a lack of cooperation between companies. I feel if some companies could just cooperate and do it for the better of the league, it can really, really grow the league and grow football in general in Jamaica. There's an issue here where everyone wants their own piece of the pie, and I'm really hoping that eventually we can get more people to cooperate, get the league out there, get it more people involved. Because if you see a unified league here, with unified support and unified resources going towards this league, I feel like there's no stopping it becoming a rival to the MLS. Yes, that could take 30 years, but I feel like it could be a rival to the MLS. And then after that, the next step will be Mexico. You get Jamaican teams battling in Mexico. Who knows what could happen? You know, it's big dreams, maybe for 50 years, but it could happen. Dad says, nice one, you're doing a great job, thank you so much. Pronounced it incorrect, thank you. Top global, thank you so much, Dad. I appreciate your words. So I'm going to repeat a bit about what I was saying about Waterhouse and Humble Lion, just in case if you're new. So going to these two teams, so again I'm going to repeat myself if you were here earlier. If I take a quick look at the points table, where they both are, Waterhouse is currently second in the league at 45 points. Humble Lion is 8th with 30 points. So there's a 15-point gap, and Humble Lion is just out of the playoff spot. They're about 5 points off the playoff spot. So if they win today, they'll become only 3 points behind, with getting a real shot at trying to get back in the playoffs. But they've been really lacking the quality lately. I was saying earlier, the last game that they won was against Arnett, and they didn't even score a goal. It was two own goals that Arnett scored on themselves that caused Humble Lion to win, and that was their last win. So, actually, I believe they beat Montego Bay earlier, but either way, they're not in the best form. So Waterhouse has won 3 of their last 5, while Humble Lion has lost 3 of their last 5. So, looking at those numbers, Humble Lion really needs to step it up today to try to, and Daz just want to apologize for Harborview's form. I don't believe they'll be relegated, so you know it's good news. But either way, Humble Lion need to step it up today. And if there's any day to step it up and really cause an upset, it's today. Waterhouse, I'd say, are undeniably favorites, but Humble Lion, I think, does have the quality to beat them. And I think it could be something that would cause massive, what's the word? Revolt here at the Firehouse Stadium. So, Waterhouse, another thing I want to mention, is the second time Waterhouse has faced Humble Lion in the past 4 weeks. Humble Lion lost to Waterhouse 1-0 at Clarendon. Clarendon is on the opposite side of the country, where Waterhouse traveled to. Tremaine Stewart scored a 91st minute winner against Humble Lion 2 weeks ago. So this is the second game in 4 weeks that Humble Lion is facing Waterhouse. And I know Humble Lion really has to really try to not have that second loss in a row against Waterhouse. And I think, as I was saying earlier, Tremaine Stewart is the key to Waterhouse. You stop Tremaine Stewart, you can win this game. And I think Levon Williams needs to control this game for Humble Lion. If LaVon Williams is able to control the midfield, not let long balls go to Tremaine, not let those through balls, those dangerous through balls get to Tremaine, I think they have a real chance to win. Now, if Tremaine Stewart gets on the receiving end of those passes, I don't see how Humble Line can win out because Tremaine Stewart always finishes on his chances. So if Waterhouse wins today, they become 2 points behind the Portmore in the top leaders. So if Waterhouse wins, Portmore will be at 50 points, Waterhouse will be at 48. Cavaliers third, 45. So technically, right now, Waterhouse and Cavalier are tied for second, with Waterhouse having a game in hand, which is tonight. So if Waterhouse can beat Humble Line today, it'll put them at a great advantage against Cavalier. Because next Monday night, again, Waterhouse will be involved on Monday night. Cavalier, it will be Cavalier versus Waterhouse at the Jungle Stadium. So Cavalier will be playing home game at the Arnett Stadium. And then if Waterhouse is able to win today and win next week, it's going to put them far ahead against Cavalier, and all of a sudden the top two will be looking very clear. It's either going to be Portmore or Waterhouse, which in my honest opinion will be that way as well. So going back to that, I think Waterhouse this is a must win for Waterhouse to really secure that top two position. Cavalier lost yesterday against Portmore, so that puts Portmore up 5 points ahead of Cavalier and Waterhouse. So if Waterhouse loses today, that's going to cause Portmore to be in prime position to really put a stranglehold on Waterhouse and Cavalier and stay in that top spot. Dad says Peter Lee Vassell will be a big miss, but Harborview will stay up for sure. I think so too. Harborview just signed a goalkeeper who was playing in second division in Germany, who I personally met. He's a great guy. I think he's going to put some quality into Harborview. Unfortunately, he was on the receiving end of a 3-1 loss against Waterhouse last week, but Waterhouse just had some great strikes in that game, I think it was just bad luck on that part. I'm going to try to get an interview here. I just went on the phone, but I'm going to try to get an interview here, get a preview of Mr. David Henry, who's a local announcer here for Waterhouse. He was also providing some commentary for us in Kasafa. So I'm going to go ahead and ask David. Hey, David. So just a moment, guys. I'm going to try to get provide some insight to Waterhouse. He's just finishing up a conversation. But I just wanted to say that, finishing off my point, if Humble Line wins this game, hi David, how are you doing? Do you have a moment? Do you have a moment to be on camera for a second? Just a quick preview of a prediction and just a preview of the game, yeah? Alright, it's going to get a quick chair. Okay, so if you can have a seat right here, so we're live. Okay, so we have a special guest here today, Mr. David Henry of Waterhouse, and I understand you're the announcer and the media person here in Waterhouse. If you can explain.
What's the PR? So I'm David Henry, PR and marketing and advertising type to promote the club's brand image as such. I actually grew up in the community. I've been involved with the club from 1996.
Wow. And I recently watched a documentary, Waterhouse, about the Waterhouse community, and you were being interviewed from 2006, I think. I was watching that, and I was like, oh, that's David, yeah. You've been a long time.
They think I have the most information about the club.
I see. Okay,
that's
so
the situation.
I see. So going today's game, do you have a prediction, or what do you think is going to happen?
Probably before a prediction. Actually, when the club started this season, most persons expecting the club to do well. but they probably didn't expect the club to start that well in the competition. They probably would have expected the club to start getting better in the second round after, say, the 12th match. But the club started out quite well and has continued to play better and better.
I see. And now, do you have a score prediction, you think, for today? Or?
For this game, I'm thinking the club will be much better. They'll be missing their really most creative player, Tremaine Stewart.
Oh, Tremaine Stewart's not going to be playing today?
I think he's still nursing a little injury, but I think they still have that quality.
Okay.
They'll be under severe pressure here at home from their home support, but I expect them to win by 2-1.
2-1, okay. That's big news. I didn't know Tremaine Stewart was still out. Okay, so let me know if you guys have any questions. I was going to see if any questions. Okay, so that was Mr. David Henry. He's been with the club since 1996. So I didn't know about that. He's been involved in the club since 1996. So he's a veteran of Waterhouse for sure. Now, some big news is Tremaine Stewart, who I was praising earlier in this live stream, will not be playing tonight. Tremaine Stewart is one of the top goal scorers of the season. He has the most goals for Waterhouse. So that is a big, big loss. I was thinking he was going to come back today because I know he was nursing an injury last year, but I didn't think it was that severe. Now, that could be outdated. We don't know. He says he thinks he's out, but David Henry is very close in the Waterhouse community. So no Tremaine Stewart today. So that gives Humble Lions a fighting chance, I believe. It's going to be a tough match now for Waterhouse that I find out. So for some new viewers, this is a Q&A before the game starts. This game will be live at our link below, islandsports.net. You can sign up for a free 7-day trial. This game, the half of all subscriptions go back to the league. It's only $3.99 US per month, about 500 Jamaican dollars. The cost of entry into the stadium is 500 Jamaican dollars. And with that subscription, you get every Monday night game live. So Monday night games have 12 cameras, great commentators, great graphics, the whole shebang. And so you get those exclusively on the website and the app. Also, every other game we have on there, including the Barbados Premier League. It's okay. Sorry, guys. Okay, I think I'm alive. Okay, so as I was saying, every other game is free. The Barbados Premier League is free. The Casafa Super League is free. And every Sunday night Red Stripe game is free as well. But if you want to watch the Monday nights, you have to subscribe and give us your support. The more subscriptions we have allows us to stream more games, invest more in football here in Jamaica, build better websites, build better social media presence. We're actively looking to build a live scoring website. We're trying to hire cameramen all over the island to get up-to-the-minute information. So so we appreciate your support if you are subscribed. But this game will be live at the in the description below, or you can go to Island Sports Network on the app stores. So I am sort of losing my voice here. I'll take that opportunity to say, if you're a journalist here in Jamaica, feel free to reach out to me to replace me. I'm actively looking to be replaced. For someone actually studying journalism by a local Jamaican. I am doing this for necessity right now because we're trying new things. But once we have a solid person to come and do this for us, we're happy to pass the torch. Siobhan Gittins says Waterhouse with 3 points. Vin Blair Okay, so if you can start off by just saying your name, and are you affiliated with the Humble Lions organization?
Yes, I'm Kenneth Davis.
Okay.
I'm a Humble Lion supporter. Yeah?
Humble Lions supporter, okay. So how long have you been a Humble Lions supporter?
Well, from the inception.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When did they been? When did they establish?
Well, 10 years now.
10 years. I see.
I've been there with them.
Okay, so what is your prediction of the match? What do you think?
Well, we come here to win.
I see.
And I'm looking at least at a 1-goal margin. It might be tough, but if we can get a 1 goal, it will be good for us.
I see.
Come here to win.
Do you think, with the absence of Tremaine Stewart, who's still injured,
oh, he's not playing?
He's not playing tonight.
Wow,
do you think that gives you guys a bit more of an
well, yes, I think he's the danger man of us. He's the one who eliminated us the last time.
I see.
So we have to look for it. Once he's not here, I think we will do good.
He scored in the 91st minute, if I remember.
Yes.
Yes.
And this, right. So once he's not around, I think we feel more a little bit relaxed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just going forward, do you think Humble Line can really make a push for the top 6 though?
Yes, we are going to make the top 6. There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
No doubt, absolutely no doubt about that. We will be at the top 6.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you so much. And your name again was?
Kenneth Davis.
Kenneth Davis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So we got some bold predictions. Kenneth Davis says Humble Lion will be making the top 6. I think that starts with a win today. If they can win today, then I think that'll be a huge supporting opinion to his prediction. So yeah, so that's we got a Humble Lion. Usually we get a lot of Waterhouse predictions here at Waterhouse, but today we got a Humble Lion prediction. So Humble Lion 1-0. What do you guys agree? Disagree? What do you think? We're gonna see if we have any more comments. How can I work with you guys? So Maestro Barnett, please reach out to me, info, or actually you can email me directly, Brandon@islandsports.net, or you can send us a DM on Instagram. It's Island Sportsnet, and we can work together. We're always looking for support here. Right now, I just want to say we are a small organization, so we're willing to pay for expenses, make sure you get here on time, safely, and everything like that. We're happy to pay for food and give you a little bit of stipend for the game. This won't be sort of a full-time position that you can live off of, but it's something if you're interested in helping support Jamaican football, feel free to message us. It's Island Sportsnet on Instagram or Brandon at Island Sportsnet. Leon MVP says 0-0. What do you guys think? 0-0 today? I don't know. Especially in Waterhouse, it's going to be a free-flowing game. You can make the argument for Waterhouse not having Tremaine Stewart to not have that firepower, so it could be 0-0. But it's I don't think 0-0 is going to be a great correct prediction, just in my opinion. In my opinion, I think Waterhouse will still come out with the win. I think it'll probably be 2-0 or 2-1. That's my prediction. Okay guys, we're reaching 8 o'clock. The game will be live in about 30 minutes. The game will be live at the link below, Island Sports Network. We'll hope to see you there. If there's any more remaining questions, please let us know. If you're just joining us, we did a big preview show. You can feel free to watch again. But we are here in Jerusalem. I'm not sure if you can see, but Humble Lion is training. Teams are out. So both teams are out training, doing their early training. So it's hard to see, but Humble Lion is right there somewhere. And then Waterhouse. And then there's Waterhouse. They're doing some early training. We'll see how that goes. Okay, in case you're wondering what I'm doing, this is our new camera. That's sort of how we navigate things and how I read your comments. We just had a comment, interesting comment. Leon again. Oh, thank you for the good words. year. I'd say if this was December, definitely going down. If this was December, they're definitely going down. But we are in February in the future. They've had a couple good wins. They just, honestly, they recently, yesterday, it was very disappointing for them. They were up 3-1 against Mobay, bottom of table Mobay, and they managed to lose 3-1 advantage. And the final 10 minutes, tying 3-3. I think Harborview will be a tough fight for the rest of the season. But I think with some of their new signings, they will be able to succeed and stay up. Because Dunby Holden and Mobay have not been playing well at all. And I feel like if Harborview's been playing bad, Mobay's been playing worse. So, for example, Harborview beat Mobay around Christmas time. So during Harborview's bad form, they were able to beat Mobay 3-1 or 3-1 around there. So if they can continue that up, then definitely I'd say they can succeed and not lose every game. But I think it's a chance. So we have some more comments coming in. Carl Blake says, great job, Island Sports. Thank you. Godson King says, Harborview FC not going down. Mobay and Reno going down. Western teams going down. So I think the favorites will be Dunby Holden, Reno, and Mobay. Pick two, honestly. I think pick two of those teams and they're going down. It will be a little disappointing if Mobay and Reno go down. Because that's like Godson says, that's two Western teams going down. And that'll be disappointing for the opposite side of the island rather than here in Kingston. I want football to grow, I want the communities to be involved, and if they don't have a team, that's going to be disappointing, right? Now, Mobay will still be there in the lower leagues, but will they get the same support in the lower leagues? I doubt it. They're not getting much support now, and they're in the Premier League. And yes, they are in the relegation zone, but I think Mobay really has to restructure. Motorcycles driving in. Leon says Mobay staying up. Reno, Harborview going down. That's the first time I've seen that prediction. I have to disagree. I think Harborview's going to stay up. They have good leadership since B.B. Gardner resigned. They've had okay form other than a couple big losses to Waterhouse. I think Harborview can stay up. And they just signed, if I have it here, they just signed from, I'm going to shorten this, FC Angelo Bayer from Germany. I think it's second division Germany. Nicholas Paul Nelson. So he's a goalkeeper who was playing in the second division in Germany. And the second division in Germany is probably, all Germany football is good, right? So if he's playing the second division in football, he's bringing his talents back to Harborview. I think he can stop some goals coming in enough to be able to avoid relegation. So Harborview also made a lot of moves. They made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 moves in January. Harborview made 11 moves in January. One of them is Dasha Satchwell coming over from Arnett to Harborview. So Dasha Satchwell, I know, was a decent player for Arnett. I'm not sure if it was a free, but it was a full transfer. Harborview also signed Coy Williams. Coy Williams, he was a defenseman, I believe, playing for Arnett. He also had two stints in Toronto. I've seen, I was just speaking him 2 days ago, or a week ago. He's a veteran presence coming into Harborview, and I think with him combined with the goalie and the 10 other signings, I think they have a chance to win. They even signed someone from Iceland. This is my first time saying it. If I'm saying this right, FH from Iceland, they signed Renicio Clark. So Harborview has made a lot of moves in January. I think they really improved their squad. And I'm sorry, Leon, I have to disagree with you. I think So Montego Bay is going really international. They signed 3 players to Ghana, and from what I heard, they played alright yesterday. It was their debut game, and these Ghanaian players are bringing some new energy to the squad. So I want to see Montego Bay play soon, because if they signed 3 Ghanaian players, that's going to change their whole squad, especially if they're all starting. I know originally Montego Bay was supposed to have the Monday night, but I believe they switched it. Godson says Harbour have made some good signings in January. They're going to stay up. Exactly what I said. Nobody going down to Reno. I think Reno and Dundee Holding are going to battle it out to see who's going to be going down with Montego Bay. I think Montego Bay is going to go down, and Reno and Dundee Holding are going to have to battle it out, really. Reno is such a tough team because they're so far away. They're very, very far away. I can't remember exactly where they are located. But it's always a challenge for Reno. They have to spend a lot of money on transportation every single week. They're always traveling around the island. So Reno's always at disadvantage. I think last year they were almost relegated as well. So if they don't get relegated this year, I think it'll be a miracle, to be honest. Leon says every January, Harborview signs big players that can't be top 6. I guess an argument can be made for that. I don't think they'll be relegated, but they're definitely not making the top 6 unless they go on a complete dream miracle the rest of the season while other teams just tie and lose. But yeah, you have more experience than me, Leon. This is my first season in the RSPL. But if it's consistent for Harborview, then yeah, I guess it is like that. But if they do drop to their old form, I don't see how they can survive. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure if Reno made a lot of moves. I'm going to take a quick look at my team sheet. Reno made a lot of moves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Reno made 12 moves in the January window. A lot of teams from lower divisions. They signed somebody from FC Indiana. His name is Aluade Nadoki, which I'm assuming is an African player. He came from the US. So Reno is also strengthening the squad. I think the only teams that really didn't do much is Mount Pleasant. Humble Lions only did 5 moves. And Cavalier also only did 5 moves. So those teams, you can see they're already in the groove of things, getting ready. But you can tell the relegation battles is getting heated. So I'm excited to see the final of the season. I want to remind you guys a couple more things. I apologize, I'm losing my voice a bit. But another thing, Peter Lee Vassell, which I believe Daz said earlier, Peter Lee Vassell did get sold to the MLS, but how it works is, yes, Peter Lee Vassell got drafted in the MLS, but Harborview makes money from that, so I think they made about $250,000 US from that. So, yes, they make money, and yes, they have the links, as you're saying. I'm hoping they can use that to strengthen their squad. And I don't know if they've done that in the past, but it seems like they're doing okay financially, so I'm hoping that they can transfer. So guys, I'm almost done. Like I said, I'm losing my voice. I will be back next week. I'll be doing another live show before the next Monday night game. A couple things to know. Moscato Boss Wondon, yes, this is in Waterhouse. This game will be live on Island Sports Network app. You can download the Island Sports Network app on Google and Android and Apple. You can go to our website, islandsports.net. Link is in the description to watch this game. Every Monday night requires a subscription, but it's a great production, way more than our other productions. This one's 12 cameras, graphics, everything. So if you want to watch this game, links below. Subscribe, 7-day free trial. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much. Every subscription goes to helping the league. 50% goes back to the league. And part of your subscription, you get Barbados Premier League, Trinidad Arnett Super League and every Kasafa Super League game. You can also catch Kasafa Super League here on YouTube, and every Sunday night Red Shirt Premier League here on YouTube as well. So next week we're going to be in Arnett, streaming on Sunday. We're going to be the only one streaming, and the only source for streaming Arnett versus Yui is here on the Island Sports Net's YouTube page. We'll be there live 7 p.m. I'm really losing my voice, I'm sorry guys. Live 7 p.m. at the Arnett Stadium. It's going to be a heated match. We'll stay tuned to that. Stay tuned to our Instagram, Island Sports Net, and our Facebook, Island Sports Network, and our Twitter, Island Sports Network as well. Go to our YouTube page, see our scheduled games. We have more Kasafa. Kasafa is the second division of Jamaica. We have Boys Town coming up soon. So keep an eye on Kasafa Super League coming up. Keep an eye on Super League. We're also in talks with schoolboy football. So lots of things happening on Island Sports Network. We're going to be doing another live Q&A very shortly here on our YouTube page. Don't listen to life again. Yeah, it's Arnett's definitely going to be the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. So we're at 8:15. The game is starting in 20 minutes, guys. Don't miss out. Link below. Sign up for a free trial. If you don't have a credit card, you can sign up on our apps through Google Play and Apple. You can sign up with Apple or Google Play cards or PayPal or anything like that. So thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. There's more people coming in. We're at the Jerusalem Stadium getting ready for this 8:30 game. We appreciate all your support again. Go to the link in the description below. Thank you for all the questions. My name is Brandon Carvel from Island Sportsnet. And enjoy the game. If you want to contact me directly, go to our Instagram, Island Sportsnet. Send us a DM, and we'll get going. So we just hit 8:15. Thank you so much for joining us. That's the end of the live stream. Let me know what you guys think about this. It's our first time doing this. So yeah, thank you so much, and enjoy the game. Thank you.
You don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance for the early bird. If you don't have a ticket, you don't